with that, but I'll get started already. So what I will present is really focused on applying data sciences in a way, but also data processing and modeling to essentially quantified business modeling. I mean, we have tried many ways, in many ways, to find a good name to describe the activity that we were doing. Oh, that's how we went. That's the word we ended up with. It's quantified business modeling. So data is an essential component, of course, in all that. But when you have data, of course, data come from many places. We're essentially concerned in our activity with two types of data. One of them being linked to the pharmaceutical industry on one end, with purely business aims of understanding the markets, the way patients behave, that kind of thing, to try and understand and optimize the way that you get products on the market. So that's definitely one part of the activity. The other part is really related to energy monitoring and building management, and trying to optimize the way that you use the energy resources, the flexibility that you may have in buildings, and trying through monitoring of the data and understanding how things work out, how to best optimize your usage of everything that you have at your disposal to improve your consumption. Here I'm really going to stay essentially focused on the life science side, which we call the life science, which is really the pharmaceutical industry. So you have all of those data. They're of different nature, and the reality of things in every large company is that data reside in many different places, many different systems, that they are very difficult to combine together. They contradict one another very frequently, and that it is important, before getting started with using that data, to properly normalize it, clean it somehow, very similar to the way that you do with any kind of sensor or measurement instrument. It's the same with every kind of data. So there's a lot of work, of course, to get the data, but then you need also to try and use that data as optimally as you can to drive your decisions. So our real purpose with this data that we use in that area of our activity is to try and educate strategic decisions based on not only gathering the data, having it at the disposal, processing it, but also making it intelligible on one end, and building them into models designed to predict the future. Predict the future, of course, that's a very bold statement, I guess. But predicting the future is, of course, trying to predict possible futures, trying to put probabilities on the likelihood of those futures, and trying really to educate the decisions with providing the right information for people to take their strategic decisions. Now, of course, if you don't take the pain to process that data and take the globality of it and integrate it all in the decisions that you make, you're very likely to base your decisions only on partial information, and with the risk of having unpredicted outcomes. Unpredicted outcomes, of course, are always a possibility, but with a proper management of the data that you have at your disposition, a realism in the way that you handle it, it is very possible to try and limit those unpredicted outcomes. So, of course, when you have your data, of course, there's a lot of technology involved in having the data stored correctly, accessible correctly and efficiently, and also formatted in a way that can be easily processed in combination with everything. You have all of the theories that you want in the world to try and make sense of it, and then you start building theories on how the future is going to behave. Of course, there are lots of uncertainties on every single data. One thing is, of course, past data. The rest is predicting for the future, and there you have a vast array of uncertainties that you have to deal with. You have many unknowns, things that you not only have uncertainty on, but that you simply don't know and have to make assumptions on. And there are many likelihoods for every single thing that may happen. Now, out of that, it is very critical that whenever you try and handle the data, you correctly understand how sensitive every single output that you're going to derive out of that data is on every single element in the data that you have. So you need to evaluate that. You need to consider different types of scenarios. You need to also, and it's very critical, to understand what the output means. And that requires not only being able to process the data, but also to understand the real purpose that you're following with that data in the end. And be ready. I'm not exactly sure what I meant there. I'm sorry. But also that, well, I'll skip that. To go to the more detailed practical cases that we are dealing with this kind of approach in the pharmaceutical industry. Launching a new product, for example. Lots of things that you need to understand when a new molecule comes out. Usually it can address different types of indications. You have to understand the types of treatments that you are able to access with that. So you need to try and model the different patterns through which patients are going to flow. You need to assess reimbursement opportunities with different types of data coming out of researches on the market, both on the government side on one end, the patient side on another, the physician side on another as well. And you need to try and combine that all in a model that makes sense when you try to take the best decisions as to where you're going to position your product in the market. Also, when a product is launched, there are lots of data coming from the sales that you have in all of the countries where the products are sold. We're talking about pharmaceutical industry, so multinational companies selling products about everywhere in the world. They need to manage their contracts, they need to manage their prices, they need to manage all of that during the life cycle of the project, and also having the abilities not only to get that data in an understandable way, but to make sense of it is also very critical. And then the last part is also related to try and understand where the future is going to be based on different types of events. For example, I mean, and that is becoming very particular to the industry, of course, but some regulatory decisions end up having impacts throughout the world. I mean, typically, if a given country ends up cutting the price of a product in a country, that's going to impact every single country through different types of mechanisms. Now, there's data that allow us, of course, to describe the type of mechanism that goes through, and, of course, the modeling then enables to predict that. I think I reached out the end of the time, so thank you.
Thank you very much.